You know what's more overwhelming than your kid's Lego pile? Your parents' house when they've lived there for 40 plus years. One minute you're confidently packing Tupperware, and the next you're hugging your old blankie and crying over a recipe card from 1972. If you've been there or you know it's coming, this episode's for you. Welcome back to another episode of Professionals People Avoid, but definitely need to talk to, where we shine light on the experts you didn't know you needed until it's borderline chaos. I'm your host, Michelle Neely, a seniors real estate specialist, and today I've got the Mary Poppins of moving, Jennifer, the founder of ReSettleMe, and a certified senior move manager. She helps seniors and their families navigate one of life's biggest transitions without losing their minds or their memories. Jennifer, welcome.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So, for those who don't know, what exactly is a senior move manager? And how is it different from, say, calling two guys with a truck?
Senior managers are professionals who specialize in working with older adults and their families to help them transition through what is often a very challenging and overwhelming process in making a household move that for many people, they've lived in this house for decades, and they're getting ready to do a move that is almost always significant. They're moving to somewhere significantly smaller than where they lived before. Other people are maybe not going to move yet, but they're looking to do some downsizing to better age in place where they're at. And so in both cases, a lot of people, they don't know where to start. You know, they're worried about what we're going to do here. And that's where we come in. Our role far exceeds what movers do in that, of course, we offer the practical and the physical support maybe that people are looking for. But what we feel like is the most important thing that we do is we offer the emotional support, because this process for people is surprisingly emotional.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah, they're not expecting some of the feelings that come with this. So it's our day today. And so we're very pleased anytime we get a chance to sit down with families and get them rolling.
That is wonderful. You're not just moving like boxes, you're moving lives.
Yeah.
So what is one thing that people usually underestimate about this type of move?
Yeah, well, without a doubt, they are underestimating the feelings and emotions that they're going to have going through this process.
That makes sense.
I think people expect that, this is going to be tiring, and this is going to be, maybe even overwhelming. But one of the emotions that I really think comes into play for people is the sadness. And we hear, clients will say, "Why do I feel so sad over a box of junk?"
Yeah.
And we have to remind them that this process and what they're doing is a form of loss that they're experiencing, and being sad is like a normal experience when you're losing things like that. And the process is a little bit like, there was an old TV show a long time ago, I think it was This Is Your Life, and they would take people down memory lane, and that's what you're doing here. So when you see these toys that your now 42-year-old does not play with anymore, obviously, or the china that you remember your mom setting this beautiful holiday table, that you're looking around and you're seeing all the evidence of the hobbies that you once did or maybe didn't do. That's the other thing. People have grand plans to be an artist, or they're going to write that book, or they're going to do these things. And then when they're having to decide to let it go, it's like they have to admit that they're not going to do that stuff now. It's hard.
Yes.
It's really, really hard. And then the real deep one is these objects are often attached to these memories of people that they have loved and lost. I think people are afraid of, if they let this object go, are they going to forget this memory? So it really surprises people. They really are like, I didn't expect it. Why am I crying? And the one other thing I'd say people underestimate is the head work and the mental load that this will be on them, and how tiring that can be.
Right.
People think it's going to be physical, but it's the decisions that they have to make that can really wear them out.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. So, about the stuff, so like you said, you're not just dealing with the furniture, you're dealing with the scrapbooks and the 5 sets of china. And so how do you help people process and sort all of that without, getting overwhelmed? Walking in and seeing all of this and then kind of narrowing it down.
So with sorting, there's no real one size fits all, first of all, for for any one person.
Yeah.
Because so many factors come into play with it. What one person, it depends on the type of decision maker they are, I guess is what I'd say.
Yeah.
Some people are like, I'm ready. No, let's
Right.
move. Other people are like, oh, let me hold that. Oh. And so now we're like, oh, we got to change that a little bit. Other people don't have as much time as some people do. Some people have a year to do this. Other people are going to move in a month. So we're going to adjust our strategy there.
Yeah.
But I think, a couple good tips that I would have for people is, number one, I would say start with the areas that you spend time in today in this home. So that would be your kitchen, your living room, your bedroom. Maybe you spend time in an office. You think about where you spend your day-to-day, that's where you should be starting.
Yeah.
Because the things that are in those parts of the home are going to be the things that you want to have with you. And so it makes more sense to start there than go down in that basement with like all the tubs and boxes and let's take a look. And I haven't been down here for 5 years. You'll wear yourself out before you get to the important things. So you start with what you need. The other thing is to work in shorter sessions. Sometimes people are like, they want to be weekend warriors and let's spend 10 hours in the garage. You'll fry yourself out. So a better thing to do is break it into chunks and do, when we go out and work with people, we don't work with them on sorting for longer than 3 hours at a time.
Oh, good.
Because we know they're done making decisions. Back to that head work that I was talking about, they're going to be worn out. So it's better to just break it into chunks and then give yourself a break, come back tomorrow and work some more.
That's smart.
So the other thing is to give yourself permission to let go of things. And that is our role a lot, where people worry that I have been the caretaker of this rocker that has been in my family for, generations. And if I let it go, am I disappointing my ancestors,
Right.
And what we remind people is, hey, if you don't need it anymore and you ask your family, your kids, and they don't want it anymore, that's a family decision that was just made.
Yeah.
And you can take that load off your shoulders there to say, we decided as a family, we're going to let the rocker go, you know? And it helps because I think they feel the guilt and the worry about that. It's also okay to let photos go. That's another thing.
Oh, yeah.
Photos are very, very hard. But when you get into photos that are pictures of people that only you know, or you don't even know these people anymore.
Right.
And your kids are like, I don't know, it's okay to let those go. And that's a hard thing, but give yourself permission because you can't hold on to it forever.
I mean, it's hard for me to delete photos off my phone. I can only imagine.
It is. Photos is the last thing to work on, by the way. It's the hardest. And the last thing I'd say is keep living your life. People get into like, I'm moving. I can't go to my bridge group. I can't go out for lunch with my friends right now. And we always say, yes, you can. You got to keep living life right now. People make themselves sick getting worried about this sometimes.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we like to remind people of.
Okay, so we both work with adult children who mean well, but let's be honest, sometimes it can turn into a full-blown family meltdown. So what's your strategy on keeping the peace?
Tricky sometimes, as you know. There's something about stress that brings out our inner 8-year-olds, there's been some difficult family dynamics in the past for people. People should be ready for them to show their faces again. If you've always struggled with one sibling, you're probably going to struggle during this process, and vice versa. But I have a little bit of different advice for each side of this coin for the parents of this situation. I always try to remind them that even though if you're feeling bossed around by your kids right now, which they do, because kids come in and say, Mom, I just want you to have the best of things, and let's get rid of all this junk and let's get new and let's, no, you don't need this, that, and the other. Parents balk at that a little bit because there's this thing called, I think it's Dave Ramsey that says, there's powdered butt syndrome. Oh, which is nobody wants to take advice from someone whose butt they powdered in the past, So it's sort of good to remind yourself that, all right, they were my kid, but they love me, they are trying to help, and your kids are afraid a little bit, and they want you to be cared for. They just want the best for you. So if you feel like you're getting pushed around by your kids, remind yourself that you're being loved. Yes. But the bigger thing that I would say is on the other side for the kids. Your parents are scared and terrified right now too. And they're worried about different things. This is a time of great loss for them. They're losing spouses, friends, family, their health, their independence. So the more that you can give control to them, give it.
Right.
You know, ask them questions if they're being stubborn and I'm not going to let that couch go. You know, that's
Right.
I don't care if it doesn't fit. Find out why they care so much.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, why, you know, what is it about this? And sometimes you find out it's that they're worried that when somebody comes over, they won't have a place to lie down.
Yeah.
So then you can figure out, well, how can we take the love seat and maybe get a air mattress?
There
You
you
know,
go.
that comes up every once in a while when you need somebody to sleep. So ask questions.
So I've got to ask, what's the weirdest, most unexpected thing somebody's insisted on bringing to their new home?
Well, there's all kinds of, that's one of the very fun parts of our job.
Oh, yeah.
Is getting to see all this cool stuff that people have. It's so many interesting things. We've moved a tuba, we've moved a saddle, a horse saddle that somebody wanted displayed. We've moved an actual Emmy award. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
But what we've come to know is that whatever they're choosing to bring, it represents to them a piece of who they are, like what their life has been, and whatever they choose to bring is what's going to make them feel most at home.
Yeah.
So in our world, we don't ever say it's not weird, you know, it's whatever's going to make you feel at home.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to adjust well to their new situation, the more that they have things around them that feel familiar to them, the better they're going to do the adjustment.
Great. I love that. And yeah, listen, she doesn't just get your things to the new house. She sets them up and gets them styled and livable immediately. That's amazing. It's like HGTV, but real life. So if someone's watching this and thinking, this is exactly what I need, what's the first step?
First step is give us a call. Tell us a little bit about your situation. That first phone call, when we hear a lot about what your specific situation is, we'll find out if we're a good match for each other. And then we always offer free consultations where we come out and see what people are dealing with. You know, what we get calls sometimes, people say, I'm a hoarder. And then we go out there and I'm like, no, you're not. You know, and other people say, it's not that much stuff. And you get out there and you're like, oh yeah, it is. So we can speak better to you after we come and see what your situation is. And we can put together a service plan that'll let you know, range of costs and find out exactly what kind of help you're looking for.
Perfect. You heard her, folks. So if the thought of packing up your parents' house makes you want to fake your own death, call Jennifer. ReSettleMe turns what feels impossible into something beautifully manageable. Her info's in the caption. Reach out and tell her Michelle sent you. Until next time, stay calm, call a pro. We've got you covered.